Okay, good morning. It is Thursday. It is October 27th, 2022. On my first read through, I said 1922. Wow. I'm on my Peloton. I have one of my favorite shirts. I'm going to step off because I can see myself going careening. It says, "Strong women, may we know them, may we raise them, may we be them." Shout out to my mom because she did raise a strong woman. Shout out to my cognitive behavioral therapist for making me realize that. Shout out to my brother for raising two incredible women who are beautiful on the outside and they are beautiful on the inside. I have two nephews too, but this isn't about men at this point. So a good job, bro. All right, so this week is about awake, and what does cognitive behavioral therapy have to do with being awake and being conscious? We're going to explore that today. So I went through this phase, because that could really be the story of my life, where all I knew about my behavior was tangible, and my world was predicated on that. My thinking was predicated on that. I think that's pretty normal. Then as my view and consciousness expanded, I was like, heck with you, world. I don't need you. I got all this. I got all that. But I didn't like the world. And I didn't like people. I'm like, we're cruel, we're mean. We are not helping each other. And I think this is really natural egress, my crazy button up here. And I think as you get into your fourth and fifth decade, you start to integrate these two views. I think that's pretty natural. But like I said, the universe was like, you do need these people. You do need this lifetime. And that's apparently how it's supposed to work for me. There is no way around it. There are no ways around these emotions, and there are no ways around these feelings. Now, I should say, yes, there are. I don't think they're particularly healthy, and I have investigated most of them. I have been through, like most people, some pretty rough social situations and family situations, more than some, not as much as others. I've never stayed in therapy that long. It's kind of been a touchstone in my life. Divorce, death, the things that happen in your life that you struggle with, and you kind of think, hey, I need to talk to someone about this. But it's always been traditional therapy. And I've explored some interesting stuff like EMDR, which we'll talk about, because I think a week on therapy and the different modalities, how they're possibly useful at different times in your life. But I'm always like, I'm good, a couple things. And another thing I'm really good at, and shout out to you, LB, I'm really good at talking my way around things, or convincing people, especially professionals, because I am in the medical profession. I'm okay. I know the jargon. I'm good, I've got this. Well, I'm not good, and I don't have this, so get help. Recently I've come back around, and it does not matter what happens to me emotionally on a higher level, I realize it does, or spiritually. You may be exposed to these gifts and these experiences, but you got to go through it. And interestingly enough, when I was writing this, I was trying to spell spirituality. I'm a horrible speller. Great reader, wonderful cognitive skills, but boy, it doesn't matter how many times I look up a word, I can't spell it. So I was trying to spell spirituality. I kid you not, I was using a Bing search engine. I want to give a credit where credit is due. And they had, they have the definition, the spelling, and then on this side, they have little blurbs and links you can click. And this said, spirituality is not. So it's black writing. This is in blue. The N is capitalized, bold, and it said, magical thinking. Denying in the face of present documented evidence that supernatural beings and places exist. That's magical thinking. Don't do it, basically, is what they're saying. And I'm like, are you kidding me? They're telling people how to experience spirituality. This is what I referred to in the previous episode. There is no one right way Nobody is right. There is so much out there that we do not understand, and we are learning, and we make these crazy definitive statements. Like we know for another person as well. Ignore it. Explore your spirituality like you explore your spirituality. It is as unique and individual as you are. So, I started seriously exploring trauma about a year ago. We'll do a whole week on trauma. You can do a life on trauma. But this is where I'm being led. And like I said, I did a workshop with Michael Blackstone. I will link him again. I've linked him in a previous episode. And I would say it was more the transcendental trippy stuff, which I'm good with. Man, I got that. And that was nothing to do with him. It has everything to do with you and where you're ready to go at the time. But I'm like, I'm good. I got this. Not good. Keep getting pushed to go through it, which I have been resisting for an awful long time. There's a book, which I'll link. It's called Holotropic Breathwork by Stanislav Grof and his wife, Christina Grof. If you don't know about them, look them up. He's done so much with consciousness and altered states. But his wife, who's passed away, and I believe he's remarried now, wrote The Stormy Search for Self, a guide to personal growth through transformational crisis. I think when people are going through transformational crisis, yes, you can take a set of symptoms and you can link it to kind of like a grid work in the manual, but it doesn't always mean that's the problem. It could be the problem, but I always think there's a root under cause, and I think our souls are crying out for recognition, or the universe is saying, you got to deal with this. And I think when you start to deal with this, you get linked to much, much more. I did a holotropic breathwork session. I haven't read his book. It's on my docket to read. And I can tell you, whatever it was, force, higher self-consciousness, I was slammed, because I'm like, oh, I'm going to go commune with, different dimensions. I was slammed back into my body, just with a force that's hard to describe. And it was very evident. No. You are here. You are now. You are here to think, and you are here to feel. So it was in BLE that I started to, yet again, and like I said, and that's Bright Line Eating, I can link that as well, that I started to come to grips with how I'm medicating myself. Medicating myself with alcohol, medicating myself with food. It's legal. It is probably food, I would say even more, I don't know, food, alcohol. We'll spend the whole week on food, the whole week on alcohol. But those are probably the two most, those are mediums that people, I would say, reach for. Because we all have to eat. We love wine. We have a whole culture built around alcohol. So I had to confront the issues of why I was overeating and why I was drinking. Like when I'm like, this isn't good for me. I didn't grow up with alcohol. It really did not become a presence in my life till my 4th and 5th decade. And then in BLE, I had to, they advocate that you remove it entirely because it's somewhere between a sugar and a fat, but it's probably more like a sugar, who knows, debate for another time. But I was like, wow, I have really intertwined coming home and relaxing with a glass of wine. Need to look at that. And it was far harder to remove than I thought it was going to be. So again, when I say pick something and investigate it like I have in other episodes, the rabbit hole, however, whatever burrow you go down, what's at the bottom is the same. And I would say that with addiction. Again, we'll spend a week on addiction. People spend their lifetimes on addictions, but I think all roads lead to basically the same place. So in addition to the books I'm reading right now, or listening to, I'm also reading The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wiest. Fantastic. Will I Ever Be Good Enough by Karyl McBride. Fantastic. And then my favorite to date is What Happened to You by Oprah Winfrey and Bruce D. Perry. And it's amazing. These children, they weave, and I think that's the beauty of this book, what's happening on a physical reality level with what's happening from a neural perspective. And I've said it before, because I work with kids, they are crazy resilient and crazy adaptive. But in many ways, like adults, that core stuff is still there. And when you watch the behavior being laid down, and it's arguably not even the most important time, we've already passed that, it's right when they're born, you go, whoa. And it was our child life specialist who recommended this book. And I had put it again in my library and then came to it when it was necessary. Now she's no longer with us. We'll spend a lot of time on the medical field and the implosion that's going on there. But she was right. And get it, read it, listen to it, explore it, start to discover your trauma and heal through it. So last but not least is BetterHelp and my therapist. Shout out to you, LB. I'm not sure if you want your name mentioned, but I found BetterHelp after I had done BLE. I said, wow, I don't know about my relationship with alcohol. I started listening to a podcast called Recovery Happy Hour. Amazing. She talks about high functioning alcoholics. She talks about cognitive behavioral therapy, and that's the first time I'd heard of it and why it's so useful, particularly in changing behaviors. I would say eating, smoking, drinking, any of those. And it's online. COVID did many things, and we are now part of an epic in time, you know, like the Spanish flu, the world wars, when people are going to look back and say, wow, many, many horrible things. But it pushed us forward in a lot of ways. And one of the ways, I think, is this virtual world, or this online world that we're finding ourselves in more and more and more. But that's one of the really great things about BetterHelp. You don't have to travel anywhere. You meet them where you are. You can do video, you can do phone, whatever. Anyway, she's mine now. And many times I would have, like I said, because I'm a good talker, I would have talked my way out and left. But something in me right now understands that I need to be present, I need to be with her for some time, and I need to get to these core issues. So, again, how does cognitive behavioral therapy relate to consciousness? This is my third time too. And I'm now hitting 71 minutes on this treadmill by the time I record this. We are here to think and we are here to feel. And there's no way around these lessons, and there's no way around these feelings other than to investigate them. What happened to you has a very interesting way of doing that. And LB and I were talking about this, and they focused on this little boy who his mother was killed in front of him, a home invasion, and it sounds like he had a really great set of parents. So, I don't know, a year later, 2 years later, father and son are at the grocery store, and the little boy looks at the cashier, must have looked like his mom, says something to her. She validates him appropriately. They go out into the parking lot. The boy starts rocking and runs into the traffic, and Dad's like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? Is it getting so bad that he's running into traffic? So they peeled this apart, and basically, fundamentally, this little boy was bringing up bits of this trauma in little sound bites and little bits. And that's all his brain could deal with at that point. And the dad, as they're wheeling out, is going, we can talk about this, you know, basically from the adult's perspective, this isn't, crippled me so much that I can't attend to your feelings. And we certainly know that happens, right? In trauma, people will shut down. And when it's multi-generational or a family and they can't shepherd the children through it. But he was trying to do that. But he was trying to do it in an adult way. And the boy's like, which is why he started rocking and ran into traffic. He's like, I just need to flee. I can't deal with this. I can only deal with this the way I can deal with it. And I would say that is already, for me, one of the large pings with cognitive behavioral therapy. You think you're just talking, but you're not. They have a whole grid. They have a whole way to shepherd you through it. But you're doing it in little sound bites that work for you. So, as always, have a blessed rest of your day. Thank you for spending this time with me. I will see you back here tomorrow, and Tahanavad.